Going live. All right. I believe we are on. Yeah. We're going to give it some time for people to get in. Hi. If you are on, just give me a quick hello. I think I have this workbook. Hey there. Just put a message in there, say hi. Hopefully you already have your workbook and you can download it. I just put the link in the chat because we are going to be working through some of the stuff that's in our workbook. That's going to be a workbook for you to use for a long term. We will give people a few more minutes to get in before we get started. It's only down for a couple of minutes. You can click that link and you can grab your workbook. If you don't already have it, you haven't downloaded, in the chat, you can check that link and go out and make sure you grab your workbook because we are going to be actually working through these steps today. And tell me if you are excited about figuring out that perfect business idea, right? If you have a side hustle, you want to get to entrepreneurial freedom, just give me a hey. Let me know you're ready. Say, I'm ready. Don't forget to grab your workbook. We got a couple more people jumping on here, I see. I'm ready, Cheryl. All right, good. Oh, it went away. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right, it is 6:03. We're going to do one more minute to allow people to get in, and then we are going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, hopefully you guys went out and actually downloaded your From Side Hustle to Entrepreneurial Freedom Planning Guide. It's a workbook. It is a really powerful document that I was actually contemplating not giving away for free, believe it or not. It's got about 25 pages of good stuff in it, and it's going to actually help you. If you utilize this and walk through it step by step, you will actually be able to completely figure out your side hustle to freedom game plan in one weekend. But you've got to seclude yourself. You've got to do a little retreat, which I talk about in a whole separate video about the growth plan, and really sit down and focus on building and growing your business. So you want to make sure that you have your workbook handy. If you didn't get a chance to go in and download it, please make sure that you do. I put the link in the chat, and it's also, I believe, in the description underneath the video if you want to access it. And I'm excited to be working with you guys today on this stuff. So we are going to go ahead and get started. I think I'm shiny, y'all. Oh, shiny. Yeah. Anyway, look at my nails look. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Do not forget to download your workbook. You're actually going to want to go ahead and download it now because we're going to actually be using it during this session. So that's really important so that you can actually work through it. I'm going to walk you through this workbook, at least the first couple sections of it, because today we are focusing on how to choose a profitable business idea and how to know if the business idea that you have had or that you've chosen for your business is the right fit. Because a lot of people have a lot of great ideas. That's one of the biggest questions that I get. I've gotten DMs, I've gotten direct messages, I've gotten text messages from people saying, this is the idea that I have. This is what I ultimately want to do. I'm not sure if this is the right idea. And so all the ideas that are kind of going around in your head around your side hustle, starting your business, it can really paralyze you. I have been there. So many businesses that I've started, some of them have actually become full-fledged businesses, like my current businesses, and some of them started out as just ideas that I dabbled with, realized it wasn't a great fit for a number of different reasons. And so my goal today is to work directly with you and help you actually figure out what the good idea should be. And if you've already got an idea, let's say you've already been functioning kind of lightweight in a business idea, then is it a good idea? Because there's some specific criteria that you need to really consider and you really need to work through in order to determine if your current business idea is going to be profitable for you and is going to be viable. It doesn't matter what your idea is. If you're not making money, if you aren't ultimately getting to that lifestyle and decision-making freedom that you desire, it makes no sense to be doing that, right? So, so you're probably tired of working for your big boss. You know, you're sitting in your cubicle every day, doing work for somebody else, thinking to yourself, I am meant for better and bigger things. I have the skills, I have the desire, and there's so many people out there that are starting businesses and that are running businesses. I can do that too, but I'm stuck behind this desk, not really knowing which direction to go and not really understanding what the steps should be and figuring out a good, viable business idea. And so what will happen is you'll waste a lot of time, you'll procrastinate, you won't be successful getting through to that awesome, profitable business idea if you don't take the time to really think about it and you just try and dabble. And what ends up happening is I've seen people 6 months, oh, I want to start a business. And then 6 months later, I talk to them, how's it going? And they're like, oh, I don't have a business. I haven't gotten started yet. Think about what you would do if you had started your business, where you would be if you had started your business a year ago or 2 years ago. Where would you be? I mean, in essence, for the average business to really see multiple 6 figures, even 7 figures, it's going to take you some time. I mean, 2 to 5 years is where it is. And the longer you push off that 2 to 5 years, the harder it's going to be and the longer it's going to take for you to ultimately begin to experience all the rewards of entrepreneurship. You know, that financial reward. Imagine not having to worry about paying for things or how much things cost or putting away, you know, pushing off that trip that you want to take or buying that gift, or Valentine's Day is coming up, being able to get your boo all that stuff that you want because you're worried about the cost or you're struggling or you've got to save up for different things. I mean, having financial freedom puts you in a position where you elevate your lifestyle, you elevate your expectations, and there is just a different level or lack of stress that it really does bring to you. I can tell you, once you get to a point in your life where you know that you have more than enough and you have abundance, it's amazing how much more abundance you really attract because your mind shifts and your mindset changes. So again, I want to make sure that we can dive into it today. A couple more people I see are logging on. Make sure if you just got on that you go out and you get your workbook, because we are going to be working through pages 1 through probably 4 today. We're going to be working through pages 1 through actually 5, it looks like. And we're going to get some brainstorming going, and I want to be available to answer any questions that you have as well. So make sure that you go ahead, put them in the chat, and let me know, and I can go ahead and answer them. If you are here and you're ready to get started, say I'm ready, and we're going to go ahead and start with this particular one. So again, this workbook is going to be something that we're going to work through today, but I wanted you to have it as my gift to you because it is going to help you work through your entire plan to figure out that side hustle and to get yourself to that entrepreneurial freedom that everybody wants, right? If you are thinking about starting a business, you're starting that business for a reason, not just for impact, not just for fame and all that stuff. Hopefully it includes fortune, it includes lifestyle freedom, it includes decision-making freedom, and it includes being able to have that impact on the world. So make sure you give me a like as well if you're ready to go. So my biggest philosophy in this entire exercise is really figuring out the steps for us to talk about with regards to doing what you love. Doing what you love, doing what you're good at, and doing what you know you can do and make money off of. And that's ultimately what we're going to decide on today. Sometimes people say, oh, well, I have this hobby or I have this passion and I want to start my entire business around this passion. Well, if your passion is not profitable, doesn't have the possibility of being profitable for you, you're not going to want to do it. If nobody's going to buy it, you're not going to want to do it. And if you don't really have a lot of experience in doing it, you're not going to want to do it. So we're going to work through all of that, because if you do what you love, the money will follow, believe it or not. But how do you know what you should do? So let's start with step one, and hopefully you've got your notebooks open, your workbooks open. So picking the best side hustle idea that can grow into a viable business does feel very hard. It feels very scary for a lot of people, and that's completely understandable. And it's no different for myself. I mean, it was a very similar experience for me. That's what I did. 15 years later, I've had multiple six-figure businesses and seven-figure businesses that all started, believe it or not, as a side hustle. And I did it that way because I have a very low risk tolerance, meaning I'm not the person that's going to quit my job, jump out on a limb, and just start a business. I've had a family, I have responsibilities, I've had bills. And so I needed to make sure that while I had my full-time gig, I was able to really put the shell of my business together and actually start to launch that business and to pull in my first 10 or 15 customers in order to make sure that I can make the money and make the money that I ultimately need. So we're going to start by writing some things down. And I want you to write these things down, grab a pen and a paper, grab a pen in your workbook and begin to write them down. And when you look in your workbook, we're really talking about page 2. That's kind of where we're going to start. And I want you to start brainstorming. We are just going to let it flow. I want you to answer these questions. And then at the end, you'll get excited about a few of these ideas that we're going to brainstorm, and we'll know that you're going in the right direction. Okay. So these are really the questions that I started with when I was making decisions surrounding my business ideas. There are lots of things that I love in life that I cannot start a business around because my skill set may not be there, because they were going to require too much capital that I didn't have, or they were going to limit my ultimate goals of my lifestyle and what I wanted to experience. So there's a number of different factors that go into it, but we are going to start with you really writing down, jotting down in your workbook, the things that you love doing. That's the first box there. Things that you love doing. Write that down. For me, I would say I love wine, right? I love wine. I love tasting different wines. I love enjoying different qualities of wine. I love wine and food pairings. I love wine. So I would write down, I love wine. I love public speaking. I love teaching others. I love being a problem solver. I love makeup. I love fashion. So all of those types of things, you want to make sure that you're writing down all the stuff that you love. Go ahead and put those in that box. You want to brainstorm, just let it flow. Don't limit yourself. Don't let your mind tell yourself that's not a good idea. We will get to in today's session whether or not it's a good idea. So don't worry about that, right? We want to make sure that you're writing down everything that you love, and we're going to continue to narrow it down as we move forward. Next, I want you to write down the things that you hate doing. All right, that you absolutely hate doing. So yours might be, I hate public speaking, or I hate sales, or I hate writing, or I hate history, or whatever it is. I want you to just brainstorm, let it flow, and just dump all of the stuff that you hate doing. And that's really important. And I also want you, if you're currently employed, or if you're not currently employed and you're thinking, I want you to think in perspective of your most recent position. So in that next box, I want you to write down what you love or have loved about your job, or multiple jobs. If you've had a handful of jobs, when you think back over all of those positions that you held, what were some of the things that you just loved doing? Maybe it was data entry, maybe it was financials, maybe it was paperwork, maybe it was administrative tasks. What were some of the things that you loved doing in the past and that you ultimately know that you were doing good in, but you don't want to worry about that just yet. We're getting to what you're good at. I want you to write down all the stuff that you loved about your job. Like when I was choosing my current business, one of the things that I loved about my job was doing trainings. I would get up in front of our volunteers or in front of staff or in front of different people, and I would have to completely create a training program and get out there and disseminate that information and create all the workbooks and the worksheets that go along with that. And I got such great pleasure out of that process because it allowed me to brain dump. It allowed me to share my knowledge. And I got such great feedback from people on how those trainings impacted them. And so in this particular box, I would write down, I loved training, public training. Then I also want you to make sure in that last box on page 2 that you are actually writing down the things that you hate or have hated about your jobs. And okay, you might come up with 25 different things, right? I don't want you to put, I hated my manager or I hated Sheila. That's kind of irrelevant, right? The specific things that you hated doing, or, the things that you could really do away with, that you really didn't enjoy. Like potentially maybe having to get up in front of your, coworkers and talk about something or teach or educate. So I want you to write those things down in that last box on that in this workbook. And that's really important. So this first page is really for us to determine what you love. And the reason is when you're starting a business, when you are starting a side hustle, you will need patience, you will need tenacity, and you will need to push through even the bad days. And there will be trying days, difficult days, bad days, and there will be lots of times where you will think to yourself, am I doing the right thing? Why am I doing this? But if you are functioning in a space where you are doing something that you love to do every single day, doing all the extra things that you're going to have to do, being a business owner, a solopreneur, a freelancer, an entrepreneur, someone's boss, all of those things you're going to have to do are not going to feel like work. Now, it's a double-edged sword because I'm in that space often, and that means that I work a lot typically, and sometimes I struggle with work-life balance. I allow myself to pack my calendar. I allow it to be jam-packed, and it's very difficult for me to be able to pivot and redirect. So this section is really to help you think through the stuff that you love, but also the stuff that you hate, because we want to pick a business idea that eliminates as much of that hate as possible, right? So now moving on to page 3, I need you to continue in your brainstorming mode, right? So now you've got your juices flowing. You are moving through. And on page 3, I want you to begin at the very top. And this is where it's important for you to write down the things that you are good at doing. Not just what you love, but what you know you have a strong suit that you've done well, that you've gotten feedback from other people saying that you're really good at doing. It doesn't have to be in a job specifically. If you can't see your skills objectively, I always tell people, ask your friends, ask your family, what am I good at? They have told you what you're good at over and over. You're really good at giving advice, or you're really good at analyzing someone, listening to someone, and being able to give solutions. So what are the things that you're good at? You're a good cook. Or you're really good at making people feel good, or whatever it is. So write down all of the stuff that you know you are good at doing. I know that I'm good at public speaking. I know that I'm a good writer. And sometimes it's hard for us to toot our own horns, but this is that place, right? This is that place. So I want you to write down all the stuff that you're good at. And right next to that, I want you to write down all of your weaknesses. We are in a brainstorming mode. And so don't be harsh or, just ridiculously negative on yourself. We all can't be good at something, right? We all aren't good at something. So this is the stuff that if you write it down, what you're not good at, you want to make sure that you are aware of that, because you need to craft your side hustle and your business idea around what you love and what you're good at. And we need to make sure that we are eliminating as much of what you hate and what you're not good at as possible. So keep all of that in mind. Just dump, but write it down. What are your weaknesses? And then you're going to look at specifically what companies you currently admire. What are you attracted to? So I, for instance, am very attracted to actually, so makeup is really where I go, but I'm very attracted to NARS. I love NARS. I also love Kat Von D. I'm attracted to that brand. I'm attracted to that company. I love Fenty. I'm attracted to that brand. I'm attracted to that company. And I also love Amazon. And that's another company. So when I'm thinking through the companies that I love, the reason why you want to talk about the companies that you admire is because if you admire them, that means that there's a certain thing that has attracted you to them. And those are going to be functions that you may want to consider as you are devising your own business idea. Do you love the fact that Amazon is strictly online and that they offer such convenience and that their shipping is one day and that it's so easy and that you don't have to leave your house? What are some of the things that you really admire about what Amazon does? Their return policy is something that I hear a lot about Amazon. They have an amazing return policy. You never have to worry about it. And that if that's something that you admire, you want to make sure that you're writing that down, because those are going to be things that you're going to want to ultimately include as we narrow down these business ideas that we're working through today. And then who are some individuals that you actually admire? Who are they? And think through what their strong suits are. Why do you admire that person? Is it because they, are a great mom, or is because they're a great business person, or because, they manage their time really well, or they're always very polished, or whatever the case may be? Write down some of the individuals that you admire, because those skills and those qualities are going to be critical as you continue to move down this path. Because after we're done here today, we're going to narrow your list down to a top 3 business ideas, right? That's the goal, for us to make sure that we're good to go. So also, what products do you love? And then can you make those products better? So can I make them better? Here's what I love, but if it were me, I would do it differently. And we've all had those situations, because you want to begin to work through all of those things. And anything that's general in your workbook, I've given you some space just to really brainstorm on those ideas. So we're just going to let it flow, continue to work through that. So now I really do want to get in a little bit into, we have this list. It's time to decide what's a plausible brainstorming list. It's time for you to figure out if some of these ideas can meet your needs long term. So you don't get stuck, because if this will not meet your needs long term and you begin to build a business that does not ultimately meet your needs as an individual, you will give up on that business when the going gets tough. You will not have the same energy and desire towards that business. And ultimately, you won't have as much success when all of those things play a role. So I want you to think about, this is going to remove the fear for you of picking the wrong idea. And we want to make sure that these are things that are in line with our long-term goals. So when you're looking back at your list, right? And you're looking at the positive areas, and you're taking those positive areas and taking into consideration all of those negative things. So we kind of broke down like love, hate, those types of things. When you're looking at the things that you love, I want you to pick 3 options that actually get you excited. And on page 4 in your workbook, you're going to write down what those 3 options are. Now, these may be options that you've been thinking about for a while, and that's okay. We're going to work through whether or not those 3 options are plausible right now, but write down those 3 options. So for me, it could say, makeup artist. It could say personal chef, because when I'm thinking about my list, makeup and cooking is one of those things. And it could say public speaker, right? So now if you've gotten those 3 ideas and those 3 topics, I want you right next to that to write down how you can get started. What will you need in order to get started with those things? So when I look back at being a makeup artist, wow, well, for me, there would be tons of supplies that are needed, right? I would need to do a little bit of research, figure out which supplies I need to be a successful makeup artist, and begin to kind of map out what that looks like. Because I have done that before. I know that I will be looking at an initial upfront investment in makeup of about $2,000 to really, be able to do it. at least just in makeup and brushes, probably 2,000, maybe even more at this point, because that was a long time ago when I did this analysis. So probably closer to $3,000 now. And is that going to be feasible for where I am in my life right now? Right? Is that something that I'm going to be able to do? If the answer is yes, then I'm going to devise a plan on how I'm going to come up with this $3,000 in order to start this business. But you're going to be asking yourself questions in this particular section. Do you need startup capital? Will you need a new computer? Will you need to upgrade your internet? If you're talking about an online e-commerce business, will you need to have inventory? Will you need to have space in your home for inventory? All of those things need to be answered and what you need in order to get started. And then underneath that, I want you to talk a little bit about your personality, because you are going to ultimately be the brand of that business. And that business needs to tie very closely in and be indicative of who you are. They cannot be contradictory to one another. So in my top 3, as I said, I talked about being a public speaker, a motivational speaker, traveling, the world and being a motivational speaker. Well, if my personality is very subdued and, I'm more behind the scenes or things that might not be a great option in those 3 for me, right? I might be looking at something that's more behind the scenes. If I'm shy and I don't like being out in public, and if it literally gives me anxiety. So those are some of the things that you're going to want to make sure that you're working through. What's your personality like? And how do the 3 options that you picked match your personality? Are they a good fit for your personality? So that's what we're going to make sure that we're addressing, and continue to brainstorm and document those things. And now we are going to really figure out if all of these things and these options, because we're continuing to narrow them down, if they're going to be a good fit for you from a long-term perspective, right? And when I say thinking long-term, I really do mean what your long-term life goals are. How many hours in a week or a day would you need in order to be able to work on this? So as you've narrowed down these 3 choices, and one of them is makeup, well, I could say maybe in a week, I might be able to, takes a couple of hours to do someone's face. I might be able to dedicate myself to maybe only the weekends. And so I can give myself 15 or 16 hours to do this. And so if it's 16 hours, then that means that the most that I could do in an entire weekend would probably be 5 people. And if I'm charging 5 people $50 a face, is $250 in revenue a week going to motivate me? Is it going to help me in any way, shape, or form? If I'm answering that question, no, then that's going to help me narrow down makeup artist as not a great fit. Because really, to make money being a makeup artist, I know that you've got to do a lot of faces until you get to a point where you have made a name for yourself and you're highly sought after and you do such a great job that you can begin to bump up those numbers. But initially, I might be talking about my entire weekend being absorbed doing makeup. And from that perspective, is $250 or $300 going to be enough money for me? So that's what I mean when I say how many hours a day, a week can you really dedicate to, and would you need to work in order to make this a viable business that will motivate you to ultimately leave that full-time gig and get out of that cubicle and leave that boss? So, and do you see yourself doing this particular business in 3, 5, 10 or more years down the road? Is it something that you want to do long-term? That's a huge question. Also, I want you to think about what type of lifestyle you want. That is so important. Perfect example. I was working with a friend of mine who is really, working through wanting to have a side hustle, really looking at wanting to change, very unhappy in her career. And so we kind of did this in my napkin method. And I just kind of walked through on the back of a napkin. We were sitting somewhere and I said, let's work through this. And I do that often. She's not the only friend that I've done that with. I've actually done that with a couple of friends, mapping out their entire business idea on a napkin. But we were talking through it, and her original idea was to actually have like brick and mortar residential homes, because we worked through it and she's like, I think this is the idea that I'm thinking I'm going to go in that direction. We got to this point where I said, well, let's talk about what lifestyle you want. Do you want to have freedom and flexibility to travel when you want to? Do you want to be able to live 6 months outside of the cold and live somewhere different and have a vacation home somewhere? When you see yourself in retirement or at a different point in your life, what does your lifestyle look like? And she began to tell me, yeah, I would like to have a vacation home. I'd like to be able to be on the beach. I'd like to be able to work from the beach. I'd like to be able to not be restricted to a particular area. I'd like to be able to travel when I want to. With that being said, my response was, then a brick and mortar business model is not a good fit, because if you have a group residential homes for people, you are not going to be able to travel that way. You're not going to be able to live outside of your main home area for 6 months out of the year. You're not going to be able to do those things without growing it really, really huge. And then even ultimately, you will be kind of confined to that particular area. So make sure that the ultimate business idea that you're looking for is a good fit for your lifestyle. And you want to, when you're working through this on page 5 and you're looking at the lifestyle piece of what you want down here, I want you to make sure that you dream big. Where do you want to live? What type of climate? What types of hobbies? Do you want to golf all day? Do you want to at least have a spa day? Do you want to have a housekeeper? Ideas that will ultimately allow you to really say, this is what I'm growing towards. And in order for me to get to that point, the whole purpose is for me to pick a business that allows me to do that. And, digital businesses, online businesses, all of those things allow for more of a lifestyle. And they also have a low upfront capital type of investment and a low overhead type of investment. And so you thinking now about that long term is going to be very helpful for you. So I also want to touch base really quickly on some ideas that you need to avoid. Ideas that you need to avoid when you've done all of this brainstorming. And ideas that you want to avoid are ideas that are not getting you excited, that are not getting you pumped up, that are not getting those juices flowing, things that aren't giving you like those butterflies that you have in your stomach. You want to avoid those. Ideas that are going to be too hard for you to start immediately, that it will only enable you to have and make excuses about why you can't get started. The worst thing I hear when I'm working with a coachee or I'm working with a student or a client is, I can't get started because I need this long laundry list of things in order to be able to get started. And my question is, well, then why'd you pick that idea? There are millions of ideas. Why'd you pick that idea? You also want to avoid ideas that don't match your personality. If it's not a good fit for you and you have to be someone else in order to successfully do this business, don't pick an idea. You will ultimately end up changing, and that can cost you time and money towards you can get to that ultimate lifestyle dream, right? Ones that you can't commit enough time to do. Like I said, makeup. If I wanted to pick makeup as my business and being a makeup artist, but I can't do it full time because I'm starting it as a side hustle and I really would only have the weekends, and in my mind it's going to take up my entire weekend, so I really only have a few hours. Don't pick that, because makeup, being a makeup artist, does require a full level of commitment. You're constantly needing to develop your skills to get your brand out there and to really work through it in order for you to be able to increase your costs and what you're actually charging people. So don't pick ones that you can't commit enough time to do. Don't pick ones that you can't see yourself doing long term. If you think that this is a short-term thing, it's not a business. It really legitimately is just a side hustle. And I have a video that I've done in the past. I will link to that once this live is all recorded as well, that talks about the difference between a side business and a side hustle. Side hustle, absolutely short-term. You need to make some quick cash. You want to pay for family vacation. You want to pay off a credit card. You want to do something like that, 100%. But to pick a business idea, you want to make sure that you can see yourself doing it long term, and ones that will not allow you to have the lifestyle. I've already given you an example of that. I've done that before. I've picked businesses that require my presence, and I love to travel, and I've regretted that in the past. And so I've actually shifted and pivoted and redirected and started businesses and started them again, because ultimately I know that my lifestyle includes fun. And some types of businesses that you can choose can really, at least in the very beginning, eliminate that opportunity as well. So now I want everyone here to, and by all means, go ahead and put your questions in. If I haven't answered them, I will get to them at the end, because we're getting close to that right now. But I want you to look back at your workbook and narrow down your top 3 ideas. Then of those top 3, which are the most likely to help you get to that lifestyle dream? that you brainstormed on? Which are the ones that are, which is the one that's the most likely to actually have some sales that people will actually buy? Which one can you charge enough for that will allow you to achieve some side income that can grow to replace that full-time income? So once you think through all of the stuff that we've talked about today, you will, even after this session, you will come up with one concrete idea. And if you've got questions about that idea or you want to know any information, Cheryl, you think this is a good idea, by all means, if you're not following me on Facebook, you can at CCP Impact. Go ahead and message me, or on IG at Cheryl C. Perez, or obviously here on YouTube, you can go ahead and plug in the comments, whatever question you have, if you'd like to run your idea by me. And I will give you some very thought-provoking questions to make sure that we're on the right track. So keeping all of that in mind, working through your workbook, continue to do so. At the end, I would be very, very interested in finding out what your final business idea really was. So to wrap up, we have done a lot today, and I want you to continue to work through your workbook. Over the next few weeks, my plan is to actually continue to give you the content that you need to finish this plan and move you closer to your dream of freedom. So we are actually going to be doing a live session just like this for the next 3 to 4 weeks. I'm looking over at my team, like, how many weeks are we doing this? 3 to 4 weeks. We're going to be doing live sessions. Be on the lookout for those. Make sure that you log back in. But whenever you do, bring your workbook back with you, because we are going to be working through all of those. So again, at the end, you could do this in a whole weekend, but at the end, you will have a really good idea. It's a planning guide for you to create your plan and realize your dream of freedom. So next week, we're going to have another live, so you can start working on this, and so that you can get this thing going, so that you have the money to do it. So next week, I think our focus is, how can you start this thing that we're talking about and still have money in order to be able to do it? How can you start it and have the money? Because your biggest question now will be, all right, Cheryl, I've got this great idea. How am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to pay for this? How am I supposed to actually begin to devise this plan so that I can make it a reality for myself? And I'll take a look, a few more questions. I'll take a look at any questions that we have now, and I'll respond to you in the comments, or I'll answer them right here. So let's see if we have some questions. Any questions? All right, so I've got a question here that was sent in. So CP, what happens if you choose the wrong idea, and how easy is it for you to switch and change in order to fix it? That's a very loaded question, I would say. But, you know, if today, working through this session, gave you the idea that you've picked the wrong idea, I'm not sorry. Best way for me to say it, it's better for you to find out as early as possible if the idea that you've been working with or that you've been working on is not the greatest fit for you. And the exercise that we just went through is designed for you to do that at any point. I still do this exercise whenever I'm deciding to start a new business as well, because I've started them, and you can have multiple businesses. There isn't any rule out there that says you have to have one. I would recommend that you start one, make it successful, make some money, get it profitable, and then start the next one. But how hard is it to fix? It depends upon how long you've been doing it, how much you've invested in doing what you now feel is the wrong one. And if it's going to be easy for you to shift, can you just rebrand that business? Can you add your new idea as a service? Can you think of out of the box ways to not necessarily start a new business, but to just change the direction that you're going with in your current business? So I've done that before. I had an insurance benefits focused agency that was mine, and we had it for a number of years. And then I was able to make that shift into HR, specifically because what I did before was a major part and a piece of HR. And so it was easy for me to make that shift, and it wasn't as difficult as it could have been. It was just some rebranding of some names, and actually just, coming up with some basic stuff. And then I actually had some money to be able to invest in the new business from my previous experience. So it just depends upon how long you've been doing it. And hopefully that answers your question. If you want something more in depth, or you want my feedback or input, or some tough love surrounding the new business idea, or why you think you may have picked the wrong one, then by all means, shoot me a comment or shoot me a direct message on any of social media platforms, and I'd be happy to kind of walk you through it in a short time frame. Or you can also schedule a strategy call. In the description below is an email. I think my email address is in there for you to be able to shoot me an email message and ask me whatever questions you want. So don't worry about that. You can also do that as well. Okay. Next, any other questions? How important is the name of the business? Okay, that is a great question. The name of the business is critical. It is critical. And I actually have a whole nother video that I've done in a 7 steps to starting your business series. That's actually here on the YouTube channel. So when we get off, make sure that you take a look, and it talks about how to choose your business name. And I kind of walk you through all of the steps of what you should be thinking about, what you should be considering, how to do your research, and what are some of the key factors in choosing a business name. And, I know a lot of people who reach out to me, and this particular person who asked this question actually works and is using another company's brand as their business. So they're independent, they're independently owned, they're an independent business owner, but they're more of a franchise of another branded organization. And so I get that question a lot. If I am selling candles, if I'm selling Yankee Candles, or if I'm selling Mary Kay, should I brand myself as Mary Kay, or should I brand myself and come up with my own business name? My experience has been you are definitely still going to want to create your own business name, regardless of how you decide to market yourself, whichever is going to be more advantageous for you to do. I've actually done that before. For a long time, a lot of my friends and family thought that I actually worked for Aflac because I owned an insurance agency, and we sold a lot of different types of group insurance, but one of our primary products that we had a lot of success in was Aflac. And I chose, even though I had another company's name, I chose to make sure that we were marketing ourselves as Aflac. When we were directly addressing that particular customer avatar, a specific type of customer, we branded as Aflac because Aflac had such amazing name recognition. Now, if it had not been Aflac and some other no-name company, I would have probably marketed our agency name, which was a different agency name. So the name is important. Make sure you check out that video and think through all of those things. But regardless, you're going to want to create an actual business name for yourself for all the money to flow through, and so that you can ultimately pivot and redirect when you need to and you want to, just in case you have to make that change and you have to make that shift in your business. All right. Hopefully that answered your question. Do we have any other questions at this time? No, we're good. None on your side, none on your. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for logging in today. Remember, this will be here. You can always come back to it. Don't forget to click that link and get your notebook. It's going to be really helpful and really important for you. And until I see and we meet again on next week's live, which I believe is also on Wednesday. Be on the lookout for the information. I will see you then, and we will be working through how to actually start this thing and make some money and have some money while you're doing it. See you all soon. Have a wonderful evening. Mwah! Bye.